Before we start with the music, just introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Mbube, mostly known as Taj Mahal.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
I'm going to play you some songs.
Okay.
And we'll just talk about them.
Okay.
I'm curious to hear what these songs, if they mean anything to you,
Okay.
And what they make you think about.
Can you turn off this wind?
Unfortunately, no.
Okay.
Not today.
Train a ride.
Oh, that's Elvis Presley.
What's that song?
Mystery Train.
Yes, it is. What about that song? What do you know about that song?
Probably the second song that Elvis put out there. You know, he did That's All Right Mama first.
Well, that's all right, Mama. That's all right for you.
The tune is a Arthur Big Boy Crudup song.
Uh-huh.
And then Mystery Train. I think that's the sequence that it came down in.
What do you think of Elvis?
I think he was a door opener.
Yeah. How so? Tell me more.
Well, me and Richie Havens talked about this. Richie said a lot of people, we grew up, because of the limited amount of information you ever had about artists, you know, a lot of people saw certain artists at a time when it was clearly thievery and appropriation. And they didn't realize that what Elvis was going to do was actually open the door for everybody else to come in.
Yeah.
And that's what he did. You know, I mean, you know, they tried to control it, but once that genie was out of the bottle, the door was open, and so here we are now.
1 for 1.
Hey.
Ready for another one?
Yeah.
Well, my mama, she didn't love me.
John Lee Hooker and Boogie Chillen.
All night long. Oh, Lord.
Yeah. John Lee Hooker, Boogie Chillen.
Tell me about him.
Oh, yeah, that was John Lee. John Lee had 1 foot in Africa and 1 foot in the Delta. Same way with Lightning Hopkins. Lightning Hopkins had 1 foot in Africa and 1 foot in Texas. Robert Pete Williams was the same way, 1 foot in Africa and 1 foot in Louisiana. And John Lee was amazing, wonderful musician. And that was one of my earliest favorite songs, you know, blues songs. My neighbor up the street, Ernest Nichols, came from Stovall, Mississippi, outside of Clarksdale, same plantation as Muddy Waters. He used to play that song. I used to wait for him to play it.
How would he play it? Like
Open tuning.
out his window? Like
No, he would be up on the porch.
Yeah?
Up on the porch, play guitar. He had a radio plugged into he had the guts of a radio plugged into a battery with a speaker, and then he had a jack, plugged his guitar in on, and used the radio to be able to, like an amplifier.
2 for 2.
Whip it on me. Charles Mingus.
Yes, sir.
Uh-huh. Yeah, Charles Mingus.
I would love to hear you talk about Charles Mingus.
Oh, I love Charles Mingus. Well, you know, I started out singing, and then tried to teach me how to play piano. I was already playing boogie woogie.
Yeah.
Then I tried clarinet, then I tried trombone, then I tried harmonica, and then I was trying to figure out which instrument I wanted to come out. Then I listened around, there was all these cats playing great on these different instruments. I said, well, what about bass? And I said, okay, well, maybe I'll figure out how to, play bass. Then I heard Charles Mingus. I said, nah. And Oscar Pettiford. No, it was already happening. Jimmy Blanton, you know, the cats that was playing, Slam Stewart, all them kind of cats. Yeah, I love Mingus. Love Mingus, love Mingus, love Mingus. What you got next? Harry Belafonte. Belafonte. Come and you want to go home. He said then I come and me want go home. Yeah, Harry.
Tell me about his vocal performance there. What you're hearing.
Incredible. It was incredible. I mean, he was calling right out in the middle of the Caribbean and Africa at the same time. He was a big, half my family's from the Caribbean, so
Yeah.
we had that music in the house all the time. You can't go nowhere without Harry. You must have Harry.
He's one of the all-time,
All time.
right?
All time.
Wake up, mama.
Blind Willie McTell, Statesboro Blues.
Yes, sir. What about this song? Tell me about this song.
Well,
Standard?
no, it's drop D tuning.
No, I mean, has it become like a standard?
Well, yeah,
Of
I
sorts.
brought it in
Yeah.
to be a standard.
Yeah.
But I heard it. What my sequence was that I had never heard a 12-string guitar that I knew of. And then I think Walk Right In came on the radio one morning, and I was shocked by the sound of this guitar.
Walk right in, sit right down. Daddy, let your mind roll on.
Found out it was, I think, Eric somebody. What was his name? Eric. Can't think of what his name was. Played 12-string guitar. And so by that time I'd heard Leadbelly play.
Yeah.
But he didn't seem to play, he wasn't a picker as much as he was a strummer.
Yeah.
Then, what was this guy's name? He was a folklorist, and he put out a record back in the 60s, if not the late 50s.
It's a little light of mine, and I'll let it shine.
There were several records that were on there. I had never heard a 12-string be played more like a ragtime piano, and that's what Willie McTell played it, like that. So I learned it kind of like that on a 6-string and a 12-string guitar. But then eventually I showed the tune to Jesse Davis, and he rearranged it in the way that most people know how it sounds now. And we did it on my first solo album.
Yes, now wake up, mama. Turn your lamp down low.
And then that led to, Dwayne Allman learning it and creating slide guitar, which kind of jump-started, the Southern rock with Leonard Skinner and Marshall Tucker and all those guys.
Tell me about your musical discovery, especially
mean?
as a kid. Like how you were finding new songs, new music, new artists to listen to.
Music was everywhere.
Yeah.
Music was everywhere. It was in the culture. People came over on Saturday night, brought their record collection over. People, we exchanged records.
Check this
of
out.
community.
Check this out.
Yeah. It was that way. And then, people socially had dances. There were a lot of places that black folk couldn't go. So we created kind of a party, house party, rent party. Saturday, mop the floor, take up the rugs, mop the floor, clean it up, and just set it up, set everything up, set up the, the record player, get the drinks, get all the stuff set up, and folk would come over and party and eat chicken, fish, and, be social with one another. But the music was happening, man. It didn't have any record industry control. It was like your relatives, I mean, to me, Coleman Hawkins was my uncle, my cousin, These people were like your relatives, and the music was like that. So, yeah, I just, and you could hear, the way I was raised, you could hear I was connected all the way back to the African music, to the Caribbean, to the Caribbean, So, I was listening. But then, the big move, I heard a lot of stuff, and I was lucky that my parents didn't shut me off from any music that I could listen to, nor was I shut off because of the way I was programmed through the music business, which got tighter and tighter as time went on. Where you didn't hear, certain stuff that just came in. You didn't hear any like random music. You used to hear a lot of it. I got to hear country music, this kind of music, that kind of music. Didn't matter. It's like if the song, you could reach me in here, I could feel you, down to my soul. Okay, I'm good. Whatever it is, I can hear you. You got something going on over there.
These parties that you're talking about.
Oh, yeah.
There's like a sense of competition almost that drives it forward, right? Where you want to play something. If you're in charge or you're bringing a record, you want to play something good. that gets
no.
people excited.
Yeah,
and also,
yeah.
you don't want to play the same thing everybody else plays.
No,
and so it
no.
pushes.
But it wasn't even like that. You know how people were dancing, and you know what make people.
Exactly.
I mean, people were closer to what it was that people were doing, and the records represented that. You know, I mean, as a little kid, you know, my aunts would come up from New York City. They would be bring me the new dance. What you doing? Come on out here and dance with your auntie. Can you do the camel walk? Well, what about the mooch? Well, what about the snake hips? Well, what about this? What about that? What about the Philly dog? What about the Jersey bounce? You know, I mean, the dances were going around. Everything was moving around. You know, it was a communication, big communication.
Saw the girl again. Never saw the girl.
Almost sound like Ry Cooder.
Yeah. Who's Ry Cooder?
Who's Ry Cooder? The reason I went to California.
Tell me about that.
Well, hey, I mean, I was working up in Cambridge, putting on musicians at the Club 47. Guy comes in with a 12-string guitar, wants to get on the list, get him on the list, come down, you know, later on I walk down to hear him playing. And here he's playing some real good music. Tell him he's got 2 tunes, you know, they like you got one more. Comes off, this guy's sounding pretty good. Turns out he was Fred Gerlach's nephew, Stephen Nicholas Gerlach, who eventually became Jesse Lee Kincaid. And I helped name him that. Anyway, you know, one day he was playing 12-string guitar, so he asked to borrow my guitar, and which was 6-string, and he played the guitar, and he was like playing this music come out. I said, man, this guy sounded just like Blind Boy Fuller and Blind Blake, and Reverend Gary Davis. I said, well, how come all these other guys that are claiming that they're playing blues and they don't sound like that? This guy sounds like he took the music in, learned to play it like it was, and then created a voice for himself. So I said to him, I said, man, how did you learn how to play like that? He said, well, I come from L.A. and I took lessons from a guy in Los Angeles named Ry. I said, really? You think that guy wants to be in a band? And he said, I don't know. I said, well, can we get him out here?
Yeah.
He said, I don't know. He's 17 years old. I said, we're going to California. And that's what we did. Within a couple of days of me being in California, I was sitting up in Ry's house with a couple of guitars. We sat out and played some music together. Thought the guy was absolutely fantastic to this very day. You know, he's living here in Hudson, New York.
Yeah.
Now.
So you guys, right away, there was a bond.
Oh,
Immediate.
yeah. There are a bunch of us
Yeah.
that really bonded around a certain kind of music. But yeah, no, to this day, one of the most phenomenal, underrated musicians in the world. And I think it's criminal for what they've not done to big up this man.
And I think, like you, he's someone who's got his foot in a lot of different places, right? He wants to connect with different types of music
He's connected to
around the
different
world.
kinds of music. He's connected to different kinds
Yeah.
of music. Because he connected to the force that all that music is connected to.
Yeah.
You know, he's not that. He's an incredible player. He's somebody I absolutely revere in this life, musician. You know, he's right up there with the best that there ever was. Matilda.
Lost Matilda.
Yeah, Matilda.
What it is a dog?
Matilda, she take me money
and run Venezuela. Everybody.
Matilda.
Lost.
Matilda. Matilda, she take me money and run
Venezuela.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's an early recording.
Yes, early required.
Because that's been done by, well, Harry did a version, right?
Yeah,
Big
Harry.
version.
Matilda, she take me money and run Venezuela. 500.
Yeah, Harry did it. That was one of the first time I heard of. But for me, the greatest thing was be fishing off of Trinidad.
Yeah.
And I look up and I see this landmass. And I said to the boat captain, I said, that Tobago? He said, no, it's Venezuela. I said, oh my God. After all these years, it's me singing, Matilda should take me money and run Venezuela. I never
right
had
there.
that. It's right there. It's 7 miles at one point in the isthmus, 12 miles at the other point. Right, and the parang music come from the coffee growers who come out of the Orinoco River and come over to Trinidad and raise the coffee in the mountains. Yeah, man.
So you saw it
Saw it.
and you heard it immediately. The song. You start
it
singing
made
in your
sense
head.
to me. I've been singing it all these years. I said, well, wait a minute. What? How's she going
Matilda,
to take me money and run
Venezuela?
All I had to do is geographically look at it. It made sense. But I never did that. I never realized how close Trinity was. Trinity was off the coast of Venezuela. Hugo Blanco, the harpist, he also came from Venezuela.
Freight train,
Elizabeth Cotten, Freight Train.
Yes.
freight train.
Tell me about her playing.
So fast.
She is the grand dame of sub-Saharan sound here in the United States, which connects to the choral music. Her, Mrs. Ada Baker, Mississippi John Hurt, Reverend Robert Wilkins, Blind Blake, Blind Boy Fuller, Reverend Gary Davis, all those finger pickers, direct descendants of the Songhai Empire and all that. It goes back to the 9th, 10th, and 11th century.
Is that something that she would have studied from someone, or just like learned it independently?
It came through.
Yeah.
Just something that came through. It was the way you play.
It's almost like the less you learn, the more possible it is to discover the instrument in your own way.
Get out of your own way. That's the biggest, it's the most important thing. Get out of your own way.
And just listen. Listen back to it.
Well, the music will lead you there.
Yeah.
You know, it's that powerful. Hey, mama. It's Miriam Makeba.
Yes.
Mama. Yeah. Mama Africa.
Yeah. Another here. Check this one out. Different version.
Yeah, I don't know this guy's name, but he's the original guy.
Solomon Linda.
Solomon, right?
Yeah.
Winda, yeah. Yeah, I never heard that one, but when I heard the tokens, I knew it was coming from somewhere.
In the jungle, the mighty jungle, the lion sleeps tonight.
Yeah, man. Good music. Yeah, I love the South African rhythms. I was able to produce a great record by Vusi Maklasele, you know, Say Africa.
Say Africa, say Africa.
Wonderful South African singer.
It was a slow day, and the sun was beating
Paul.
on the soldiers by the side of
Paul
the road.
Simon.
Yeah.
There was a bright light.
How about that?
How about, smart appropriation? You know,
What do you mean by smart appropriation?
Yeah, he paid attention to it.
Yeah.
He just didn't go and grab the top
yeah.
of it. He dug in, spent some time with it. He had good players with him, particularly his bass player, Bakidi, was a good friend of mine. Yeah. He introduced a lot of people to some music. It went for the arc that it went. It's just too bad it didn't stay around and create more room for some people. Lady Smith Black Mambazo came over. Yeah, good, And I remember playing out at Stephen Talkhouse
Yeah.
in Montauk, and Paul coming out to see me, and he told all of his buddies that he was with. He says he never went to make a record project, that he didn't listen to whatever it was I was doing, because I was one of the adventurers who was always out bringing stuff in. But yeah, got to know him a little bit. I don't know him that much, that well. But yeah, I recognize his music.
I got one more for you.
Okay. It sounds like one of those Malian bands.
Yeah.
Like Salif Keita.
It's a guy named Bombino.
Oh, yeah. I don't know Bombino's music, but yeah.
But it's got that exactly
I thought
exact sound
it was
you're
either
talking about.
the rail band.
Yeah.
Or it was Orchestra Baobab, or Salif Keita, or it had a little bit of Alifar Couture.
Yep.
But Bombino. Yeah.
What are some of the defining characteristics of that style
sustain.
of music you're talking.
The sustain is what I call the Mandinka sustain.
What does that mean?
What do you mean, what does that mean? The Mandinka sustain is that some people play, we let the notes go long because we live out in the desert where the air changes at night. It's heat, superheated during the day. At night it cools off. So when you hear the note, a mile away you can hear it. There's a lot of yah. They don't just punctuate the notes.
It's like a reflection of the environment.
Yeah, exactly. It's like when you hear some of those Excello records from down there in Louisiana, right in the swamp.
Yeah.
It's heated during the day, and at night, the music can travel. Yeah, but thank you for, Bombino's the only one. I knew, at least my focus, I knew where it was coming from. It's definitely from the Sahel.
You know what you're doing.
No,
I'm not gonna lie.
There's ancestors just talk to me, so.
What I can tell is it's a real, genuine, you really care.
No,
like,
no.
You're always like.
No, I'm not just opening a bunch of pots and taking a little sip. No.
The whole thing, the whole.
Yeah. This is where I live.
Good.
And continue to live.
Well, it was a real pleasure speaking with you.
Well, my pleasure.
Thank you for coming.
Well, I'm glad it was only one I couldn't figure out. But
and even that, you were there,
I'm
basically.
close. I was close.